Ladies and gentlemen, this is Ben Lichtenstein from TradersAudio.com, and I would like to welcome you to another edition of our Traders Tutorial. This is actually a Squawk Box tutorial in that we're going to be discussing a little bit about what the Squawk Box is in hopes to benefit some of you traders out there who listen to the Squawk Box in determining what it is that you should be listening for, what some of the benefits are from Squawk, and actually just kind of defining what the Squawk Box is. So, Squawk Box is basically a live indicator coming to you from alongside the trading pit. It's myself or the broadcaster, depending on which product you're listening to, discussing up to the second market information. It's an attempt to help you understand how the market moves, how price activity develops, who are the pit traders, and who the rest of us are in terms of listening and reacting to. And when I say the rest of us, I mean traders and people that are receiving this information. A lot of the information that you're hearing is based on economic reports, news, price levels. It's determined by whether or not the traders are very aggressive or whether they're accumulating aggressive positions, or just the certain styles of trading that one local may have, very similar to like my number one local that I like to refer to. He has a very specific style of trading, likes to be very short in the market. One of the traders recently, I was joking around talking about this guy a little bit in terms of his position, and he said to me the longest he has ever been, or the largest long position he's ever had, is short 20. So you may need to listen to that again to actually understand what it's saying, but basically it's saying that this guy is very rarely, if ever, long, and that's definitely the case. So it is a to-the-minute kind of experience on what we're seeing in the pit. Squawk Box Audio is very factual commentary, which provides you, a different perspective on the markets. It's not a way that you learn and experiencing lagging charts or some of the other visual tools that are out there for traders to experience. This is a way to experience the live kind of heartbeat of the market, the very human aspect that's involved in the market. We're talking about buyers and sellers as they're entering the pit, and the response to those buyers and sellers that the locals have. So the locals respond to the buyers in a different way depending if they're short or if they're long, and locals will respond to the sellers in a different way if they're long or short as well. Most often when locals are long and a buyer comes into the pit, they'll actually try or allow that long or that buyer come in and try and bid the market higher, because when the locals are long, really what they want is for the market to go higher so that they can actually sell it at a better price. But again, it's a little bit different every time, and that's one of the most unique things about the Squawk Box, is that it's similar to dealing with different people and at different times during the day. You're dealing with different market conditions all throughout the day. And one of the real responsibilities of the listener is to interpret all that information and kind of assemble a bigger picture based on the smaller pieces that the broadcaster has been providing you. So you need to take kind of some of the building blocks, put them all together in order to develop the structure, or as I like to say, take all of the pieces of the puzzle and put them all together in order to kind of get the bigger picture. And this is one of the most important things that I stress about the Squawk Box, is that while there's all kinds of information that we can provide the listener in terms of the very specific details that are defining market circumstances, defining market price, defining market value, it's really just that. We're giving you very specific details, and all those details need to be put together in order to formulate a bigger picture type situation where you can take all that information and use it based on, or to establish a educated trading decision, I always say. And one of the things that is very easy in our job and what we do is that it's all factual commentary that we're providing. So we're talking about only what we're seeing. Sometimes that we extend that a little bit into the human nature side of things in terms of how we're seeing people respond to things, or market conditions. People biting on their fingernails, or people kind of scratching their head in a certain way that they do, or holding their cards, or holding their own personal body in certain ways, arms crossed in front of them, and kind of holding very tense or in a very relaxed type mode when very little is going on. So Obviously, as pressure builds, similar to you at home as a trader, as a screen trader, when pressure builds, you have certain kind of things that you do that are used in terms of response to that pressure and coping behavior, if you will, that you use to establish yourself, and that really is the composite of who you are. And it's very easy to sort of kind of look past that and try and focus on some of the other things that are at play, but that's really what makes up the market, is all of the people that are contributing to the market at that given point, whether they're trading or not trading. As a good friend of mine, Tom Alexander, always says that not trading is trading, but the trade, the activity, the aggressiveness, or the lack thereof. And the lack thereof part comes into play where I always like to say that sometimes the market follows the path of least resistance. Sometimes the market will rally due to lack of presence of sellers more so than the presence of a high energy buyer. And that can happen, and it does quite frequently, in fact, that the market will follow that path of least resistance. One of the things that our listeners, Squawk Box listeners, get the advantage of is they actually get to know where the market is by hearing the volume and positions of other traders through the broadcast. So it's an advantage to be able to listen to this information, mainly because there's many times that I've heard from listeners, from our kind of diehards, if you will, is that it's easier to interpret this in an audio format and receive this information than need to be able to pick it out from the charts, as well as the amount of information that we can provide as Squawk Box broadcasters in terms of what the paper is doing is only obtainable through the audio format and not available on the chart. You never find out if it's Merrill Lynch a buyer or a seller by watching the buy chart, but that's specifically what we're talking about when we talk about the audio format, or when we're talking about Squawk Box in the audio format. You get to know where the market is, and you get to hear the volume and the positions of other traders through the broadcast. This is a good point that I like to bring up, is that when you know where the paper is buying, or when the paper is buying, or if you know when number one is selling, you don't know necessarily what the other's position is. And so it's really important to understand that there's only a certain amount of knowledge, and there's only a certain amount of decisions that can be based on knowing where one person's position is, or a couple people's positions are, because the market is made up of many other contributing factors, and it's again a mistake to kind of isolate just where one is. What's more important is to be able to isolate what's happening in response to that paper activity. And what's happening in response to the paper as it comes in as a buyer. It's important to understand who the traders are that influence the market, and simply understand who the traders are that trade with them. Again, it's important to understand that Merrill Lynch has a major influence on the market, and understand that it's the biggest locals that are trading with them. So it's very important to be able to isolate who's responding, how they're responding, and who the initiating or the initiative type activity is being brought in by. Again, is this initiative type activity coming in through the form of retail type paper, or is it Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, and some of the other large clearing firms that we have, Goldman Sachs, Deutsche Bank, who I like to just kind of refer to as paper. Again, we get the point across that there's advantages by listening to the pit versus screen shading, rather than just screen trading alone. Again, you unlock the audio capacity that your mind has to enable to interpret the information, and then make trading decision based on the visuals that you're seeing or the confirmation on the charts. It's really important because you also get to interpret and know where the positions are, or what the positions are of the locals. And the locals are the real sort of kind of backbone, or the middleman for the market. They're really kind of they are one of the major developmental type things that help the market or slow the market down, help the market continue in one direction. Again, locals who are long and Merrill Lynch comes in a big buyer, they're going to help the market move in that direction to the upside most often. If you have locals that are short and Merrill comes in a buyer, they're going to tend to provide resistance, trying to keep the market from moving in that direction as the buy side activity comes into play. So this is really important to understand, and this is one of the major benefits that Squawk Box Audio provides to listeners, is the ability to know positions of certain players at any given point, and then be able to interpret how they're responding to the new contributing or the new influence in the market at any given point.